Ladies and gentlemen, MarauderEX here, back with more Let's Play Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. This is kind of the special extra episode where I do a lot of stuff. I'm right now showcasing sleights. I have everything grouped up to attack sleights, magic sleights, summon sleights, special sleights, etc, etc, etc. So I'm going to be showing off all of the sleights, and then at the very end we're going to have the original Game Boy Advance version of Chain of Memories, showing off the final two boss fights there to show off the differences and how the game is switched up. This is not a complete sleight exhibition. I am missing either 4 or 5. We couldn't figure it out. It is just me doing the voiceover for this, since it is the extra video. I debated against doing the commentary for this and just having it be the extra special stuff, but I figured with the GBA stuff I should do commentary anyway. But yeah, as I said, not a complete sleight exhibition. I am missing 4 or 5. We couldn't figure it out. It said I should have only 4 that I'm missing, because they are key to reward rooms that I don't have, that I didn't go back and get. But one of them that I should have found, I didn't. And I don't understand. One of them is Confuse, which you get if you find Piglet in 100 Acre Woods. I could have swore I found him, but don't have the sleight. But it only says that I'm missing 4, and we can't figure out what 4 we're missing. The ones that I'm pretty sure I don't have are Synchro, Stop, Raid, Aqua Splash, Confuse, and Warp. I know Warp for sure because it is a key to rewards that I don't have. Same with the raids. I think there might be another raid that I'm missing as well, because there should be a raid for everything except for Arrow. There's not an Arrow, but there is an Arrow type raid. That's Judgment. So anyway, as you see, we did all the attack ones. We had all the magic ones. I didn't show off the. I'm not showing off the level 2s for any of these, just the level 3s, because you guys know how it scales. So Paradise level 2 is the same as Paradise level 3, just Paradise level 3 heals more, lasts longer, etc. Splash level 3 lasts longer, does more damage, etc. I do kind of mess up with Tink, because Tink doesn't get to heal me because I'm already at full health. But if you're using Tinkerbell, you have a little charge meter where you press it, and it'll heal you, and you get recovered. The more you press, the more you get healed. So yeah, lots of sleights. Again, it does kind of suck that I'm missing those, but I don't want to go hunting down all of the key to reward stuff for those sleights, especially since most of them are just raids. So yeah. But I also noticed that there's not really a comprehensive sleight video on YouTube. There's a couple, but their resolutions look really weird. It's kind of hard to see exactly what all's going on, what does what. Here you can see what cards are going into the sleights. I didn't put the list of the sleights in as I was doing it. I probably should have. Like what makes a specific sleight. So, but yeah, these are, and I try to group them together so they're not in order for, and I couldn't find like a list. The in-game list versus like all of the guide lists are out of order. So, a Reflect Raid that I just used would have been better off using it with multiple people. If you hit one, the other 2 will home in on the nearest 2 enemies and go after those. I didn't do that. Come on. And some of these do have alternate versions, like Terror has, like if you use Jack, it has a different combination for its sleights. So, all in all, it's a mostly comprehensive sleight guide. I'm very happy about it. It shows off what they do well enough. So. And a lot of these are ones you've seen me use before, but originally I just recorded the ones that I had never used, or the ones that I wasn't entirely sure you had seen on screen. But I figured might as well show them all, be as comprehensive about it as possible. Some of these are actually really useful against large groups of enemies. Some of them are not. I've seen some of these work very well in a lot of different decks, like Lethal Flame, obviously one of my favorites, especially against the boss. Very useful. Firaga Burst was also in there, got a lot of use out of that. Didn't get a lot of use out of Tornado, but it's actually very useful, especially for enemies, because it sucks them up into it and then just kind of holds on to them for a minute. And you control where it goes, so that's actually very useful. Freeze is another one that had a couple of in-game strategies to it. You could use that against some of the bosses to be very useful. Holy, very powerful, but also very costly, since it does require Mega Elixir. Raging Storm, this is one of the last ones we got, and it is one of the most powerful. Sadly, it's also fire-based, so it's useless against people like Axel. So, yeah. We get it right before we fight Axel, too. So, Mega Flare, also useful against the final boss. And it messes up and I kill everything, so I had to go into another fight to use Gifted Miracle, the last sleight that I'm going to be showing off. Gifted Miracle will reload all of your cards, reset the counter, and heal everyone, good guy and bad guy alike. It doesn't heal the full, but it does heal a lot. And here we have moved into the original Game Boy Advance. This is played by Culex. Culex was playing this on my Saturn PC concurrently with me playing it on the PS2, so that he could get to the end of the game and beat it, so that we could show you just how different the ReChain versus Chain battle system was like. As you can see, his deck consists of zeros and several enemy cards, and that's his strategy. It's actually a very strong strategy for the original Game Boy. Not quite as strong for the for ReChain, but still effective. Also, he's got some cures in there. So, but as you can see, the battle system for the original Chain is a 3/4 overhead, so it changes how dodging and stun locking works. The attacks don't feel like they take up as much space for hitboxes, so it's easier to dodge, especially for enemies like Hades who have multi-hit attacks with one card doing... I keep coming back harping on Hades, but there are several other ones that do that. Axel, for one. Multiple hits. Marluxia here has one attacks that will home in on you from across the screen, like that. So, but they are still dodgeable. So, it plays out a little differently. It has the ability, because it's more defined corners, it's not round arenas like we've been used to. This game, you can be locked into a corner like this, and you can just get someone against a wall, and there's really not anything they can do. And it does the same. They can lock you in a corner and just rip you apart. So yeah. And if you dodge roll, you know, AoE attacks like that, it's possible to not take damage. As Culex and I were going over the footage of this, we were discussing the sleights, and we were discussing, trying to figure out what we were missing for one. We were also discussing that the zero break system is both a good thing and a bad thing. We were talking about how it's really good for you because it allows you to break sleights, especially in ReChain, that seem to get powered up, last a lot longer, have many hits upon them, or things like that. The zero system helps out for you where you can instantly break it, but he was watching me do one of the Riku fights in Reverse Rebirth and commenting on how, yes, the fact that if the enemy has multiple zeros, you get broken. Especially things like in Riku's story specifically, where you need Mickey to heal. You don't get too many other healing abilities in the middle of combat. and the fact that Mickey takes forever for his animation to actually go off, it gives the enemy so much more ample opportunity to break. The original Game Boy, the animations seem to go by much faster, so if you get the sleight off, it's harder to break it unless you were already on a 0 card or had it shortcutted and got lucky. Same goes for the enemy. It's harder for them to break your sleights. But ReChain sleight breaking with the 0 mechanic is considerably more common and considerably more of a pain when you need to get off, a heal or something along those lines. So, as you can see, the Marluxia fight here seems to taking a fair bit of time, mostly because the cards are going with the theme of all zeros. There's a lot of kingdom keys and such, so you're relying on the individual card strength and attributes to do damage. Whereas sleights seem to do their own calculated damage based off of, I guess, what cards are put into them, what the value is of them, of the sleight, etc. I don't know. I haven't really gotten into the mechanics of it. Again, Culex and I were looking at various mechanics, specifically Riku's duel system that was added to ReChain, trying to figure out if you used higher end cards for the duel to break your enemy's cards, if you did more damage. We were keeping tabs of the highest, the card total I got for a duel, I believe was 57, and the lowest was 31. And we were trying to figure out if there was any significant change in damage between the cards, because it looked like several of them had the same number of hits, but the damage was always very close, but being that it's health bars, you can't tell how consistent it is. So that is the end of the first part of the Marluxia fight, and again on the Game Boy Advance version there's only 2, so it's that fight and the second fight, and here you see that Culex was level 59 beating this. I believe we were 60, so... And here is the final Marluxia fight. He does not get the Angel of Death form, he only gets the giant Scyther form. But the key difference to this fight is that it is only on a 2D plane. You don't get to move into the background or foreground like you did in the previous fight. It's just 2D plane left and right. The battle pretty much plays out the same. You have to break the little scythe hands. He has his little Gradius options that will float around, and then once you defeat those, you get a chance to attack him directly to do damage. So this fight is actually considerably easier than its ReChain counterpart, mostly because Marluxia spends a great deal of his time in ReChain outside of your attack range, either out of the arena completely or above the arena where you can't hit him. The attacks that he has are modeled specifically after these attacks. The scythe hands, the Gradius options. He stabs down, he'll jump up and stab downward with a spike on the bottom of his right armor. I guess it's right armor, I'm not entirely sure. It might be his legs, who knows. But he has that attack. A lot of some of the attacks where he'll rush forward at you, these are all here, but they change in function for the 2D versus 3D fight, which, just the changes in the 3D fight are very impressive, and make the battle slightly more difficult. Makes me wonder why they added a third fight in, other than just for new content. With the third Marluxia fight being as difficult as it is, it didn't need the added difficulty from the Game Boy to the PS2 versions. So, I guess it's just me griping about change in difficulty curve for 2D versus 3D, because obviously the 2D version is going to be easier, simply because there's so much more you can do in the 3D version. So, but I remember playing this the first time, and I was actually expecting there to be more at the end of this fight. I was expecting more, and here you spend a lot of your time just, you know, breaking cards, because right now you can't do anything. He still has one scythe hand, and he's summoning more options to shoot the little scythe blasts and little pedal laser thingies. So this fight's just time-consuming, not necessarily difficult, especially if you have a deck that you're very familiar with its strategy for. But notice that it's taking Culex a while. Not for lack of trying. Like, you'd think you should be able to jump up and hit him, because you can jump and hit him in the face right there. But now we can target the other scythe hand. I believe one of the scythe hands is already dead. So that's all you need to deal with. And more lasers, just jump those. Again, not a difficult fight, just kind of time consuming. Because we still have a ways to go. So I did kind of want to leave these as two separate videos, simply because once I started looking around and noticing just the fact that it was not a dedicated sleight video, I was very disappointed by that. But since I don't have access to several sleights, I didn't want to just make a specific sleight video when it wouldn't be a completely comprehensive, since I am missing those sleights. I'm gonna write down all the ones that I'm pretty sure I don't have and where they need to go, or where you need to go to get them. So I'll do those in the video description. And if you're going for completionists, most of them are key to reward rooms. So farming those, if that's something that doesn't, you know, not a problem for you, then not too bad. Alright, so once both of the scythe hands are defeated, you get to ride on the back of the ride armor and hit him in his face, but he'll speed up, causing you to actually get blown off, and when you fall off, it repeats the process. So he will attack again, and you have to manage to get on his back again so that you can do damage to him. Would have been easier if you could, you know, just hit him from the ground here, like you can there. See, and it's not consistent. Sometimes you can hit him, sometimes you can't. I believe Culex was telling me that there's a couple of inconsistencies of when you can do damage to him, from what side you can do damage to him. It's been a little while since he actually recorded this, so I don't quite remember. I'll have to ask him about it, and I might put that in the video description. What his memories are of this. The irony, memories in Chain of Memories. So I assume, like, right here you could attack him, but break the attack. Missed getting on his back, but I guess you have to break his attack to prompt that opening, I assume. It really is. It's been forever since I played this. I got it when it first came out for my Game Boy Advance, and then beat it. I still have it, but it's literally been the many years since it came out that I've played it. This was one of the last games that I can remember buying day one and beating within the first couple of weeks. Everything else, if I buy it day one, it sits on my shelf until I have time to play it. So, yeah. Again, not entirely sure why missing those. I think he was testing out when and how you could hit. And one thing that this game did differently that I'm kind of glad they did in rechain is the health meters. The health meter here is color-coded based off of how many and what bar of health you're on, whereas rechain just uses the little bars underneath. And I understand that that's probably due to limitations, but it was very annoying not quite understanding how much health a boss had, because I'm like, okay, when was the last time I fought them? So what color was that their max health was? What's the deal? I don't remember. So it looks like the strategy that he's going for here is actually just going for Marauder himself, not worrying about getting on his back, and just comboing here while getting the chance, which, you know, is an effective combo. And keeping with his healing. And flies off. Changes pattern. Yeah, it looks like he's intentionally missing getting on Marauder's back. So I assume that was just faster. And I can see that, because when you're having to fight against the wind pushing you off, you'll get a couple of attacks in, but then you're spending most of your time using dodge roll to just try to keep up and stay on his back, which would make the fight considerably longer than it already is. Because right now we are at a longer time frame than the rechain fights that I was going through. But I was also using a considerably different strategy of let's beat him to death with sleights. So, very different strategies, but both are getting very good results. Especially considering the different nature of the game. Like, I really don't think the sleights available to Sora in Chain of Memories would be as effective as the sleights in rechain. Like, I don't think Mega Flare would be as useful here as it was there, because he may not just have his hitbox just may not be available to it even as an AoE. So those are things that you have to take into consideration with the differences in style for the games. So things to consider. Should anyone be interested in picking up one or either of these games, they do play fairly differently given the technical differences. And I say that, and I can't imagine anyone would go into thinking they play the exact same. A PS2 game versus a GBA game. The mechanics are all pretty much the same. How the cards work, the sleight system, and all that's pretty much the same. But there are some differences between chain and rechain, like what level you learn sleights, where you get certain sleights. Some sleights, I believe, are only available for the rechain version, like Firaga Burst. I don't believe that was in the original chain, so there are differences. So keep those in mind. But I did want to show off a couple of those differences, specifically with the final boss, because that was a major change. That was something that, as I was playing it, I was not expecting, and those differences were quite noticeable in my Let's Play, because I was just, even after playing through all of rechain and getting to the final boss, I was expecting this boss fight, and it wasn't. So when I got here, it was an eye-opening experience, to say the least. But we're almost done with this. There's very little life left on Marauder, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut the commentary here, and I will see you guys in our future projects. Till then, later, everyone.